I'd like to introduce Ray Fiorini, our newsletter editor and secretary and distinguished member, and he's going to be our program today. What are we talking about, Ray?
Tonight, I was talking with Jeff. There he is. I guess if I put my glasses on, I can see. Anyways, about Jeff is our education chairman, and David Edge is our videographer. If you notice on the newsletter that comes out, we have a YouTube channel with all of our education presentations. Well, recently, 6 or so. So that's pretty neat. David does that for us. Anyways, Jeff and I were talking, and so he asked me if I would do a presentation on the Goschenhoppen Folk Festival. It is held every single year in Perkiomenville, Pennsylvania. If I pronounced that correctly. What got me started on this little project I was on was several years back. Well, just as a side note, I'm also a member of the IOWMC, which is the International Organization of Wooden Money Collectors. In other words, wooden nickels. And it is the nation's largest coin or wooden nickel club. Anyways, the president, Bob Gabriel, and I had been talking, and he had ended up literally buying a semi-truck full of wooden nickels from his friend who had passed away in Florida, and he lives in, I think it's Rhode Island. Anyways, the freight to get the nickels up there was $1,400. So I told him what kind of things I was very much interested in, Boy Scouts, PNNA, on and on and on. Well, anyways, he sent me a couple of those great big priority boxes from the mail, just crammed full of wooden nickels. So I went through them. And there's a lot of interesting stuff in there. And one of the things that I found very interesting was this Goschenhoppen Folk Festival. And the reason is, if you've ever gone to one, they're always a lot of fun, you know, whether they're local or put on by a club. So I looked them up on the internet. Sure enough, they have a very nice website. And what really impressed me was they have their own building in town. And every year when they put this festival on, they have over 500 volunteers. Can you imagine that? We put on the PNNA here and we do it with 20 volunteers, maybe 500 volunteers. And so officially on my bucket list, I'm trying to do this next year. I want to go to Pennsylvania. I'm also a huge baseball fan, so I'd like to crisscross the state from one end to the other, and go to a Phillies game and a Pirates game, and somewhere in the middle go to this festival. Anyways, so in my initial count, I had about 25 wooden nickels maybe from the festival. And so I started building this album, as I do with most of my little projects. I go through and I'll try and hold this up. You know, in a lot of them, I'll put down some history, information, and in this case I took photos of all the wooden nickels and, you know, cleaned them up, put them on the pages here, and then here's all the wooden nickels. Well, I was short, obviously. I was short, let's see, 26. So out of 55, I had about half of them. And I think, well, I didn't quite have half. I think I actually bought one or two on eBay because they just don't come up very often. So I emailed the historians, the Goschenhoppen Historian Society, and surprisingly, I got an answer pretty quick back, a day or two. And he said, yes, we have most of the wooden nickels. Well, fortunately, they had all the ones I was missing. And so in the back sheet here, I paid $47 for 3 classic wooden nickels, 23 newer wooden nickels, and shipping of $6.50, so I paid him $47. However, it completed my set 100%, which, as we all know, as we collect stuff, it's usually hard to find and get anything collected at 100%. But the nickels I find to be just incredibly interesting. On the pages that I made, what I call the obverse really hasn't changed much. A couple of years they tried to get fancy, maybe had a new kid or something that wanted to do it. But for the most part, for 55 years, the wooden nickels have been fairly consistent. And then on the back, it's always an item or an object or a scene from everyday life that they portray from the 18th and 19th centuries for the Germanic people, the Germans that were here. And all of the volunteers, they dress up in the period clothing, they make all their food in the same period way, and they have a huge area that is dedicated to this. They play the same kind of games. And with the exception of 2 years for both the pandemic years, 20 and 21, which they didn't hold a festival. In 22, they came back triumphantly, I guess. And this year, it was held in August. I already sent off an email to see if I can get my August wooden nickel, because I do really want to keep this. But anyways, and then in the back here, I just, from their website and other images that I managed to get, I just put a number of the images, their museum, they have their own museum and general store. The people, some of the equipment. So this thing is, for a folk festival, this thing's pretty huge. I was really quite impressed when it's at 500 volunteers. I'm still impressed by that. And when you look at all the things that they do, from quilt making, wood chopping, and everything else, it looks like it ought to be just a blast to go there. I may even have to break down and get me some of my own period clothing. Now, Fiorini, not exactly German. My wife, Krantz, that's another story. She is German. And so I'll pass myself off that weekend as Ray Krantz, maybe, I don't know. But anyways, I will pass this around if you want to look at it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And any questions?
Yeah. How many people attend the festival to watch, the reenactments? Do you have any idea?
I don't remember it being in my breakdown here. I don't remember seeing any attendance figures, but it ought to be fairly big if there's 500 volunteers for this thing. So, unless all of the volunteers, but I guess back east, and I'm not a back east guy, Civil War reenactments and other things of this nature draw big crowds. So maybe up here in the Northwest, we're not that big of joiners, right?
What town was it again?
Perky Isle Minville.
I just want
I'm sure it's an easy pronunciation, but I just, I mean, just like the word Goschenhoppen, right? It's probably grasshopper in German, I don't know, but the German language always seems to stretch out the English language. That's my layman's understanding.
So all of these are from one of the years that they do this festival?
Yes, every year, complete. So
What year?
I have one example of every single year.
What year did it start?
1967. Thank you, that was a good question. Yeah, it started in 1967, also in, I think it was 1967 in Hershey, Pennsylvania, was the Antiques Automobile Association
Club of America.
Club
Yeah.
in the same year in Hershey.
They have a big swap meet for automobile swap meet.
Yeah, yeah. And I also have the majority minus about 3 of those wood nickels from the Hershey. Pennsylvania, you were there, is one of the biggest states, in my opinion, for wood nickels. There are people who collect from Pennsylvania because everybody and their mother has a wood nickel for something. And coinage and historical places, that's why it's on my bucket list to go visit. Any other questions?
Yeah, what's the preferred wood species? Make a wooden nickel out of?
I'm going to say whatever's right next to the mill. Most of these, I think, seem to be pine
Pine?
or fir.
I think I'd want something that was hard.
They really aren't. They really aren't. They're kind of porous. You can break them fairly easy. But you, unlike a coin, you can also glue them to where it would take a highly skilled eye to see that they were glued. Unless you do a crummy job, in which case you can spot those pretty easily.
Is that from experience?
Yes. It took me a while. I actually broke several crummy ones just to learn how to glue them properly. As long as you don't get any glue to ooze out and you use that green tape on both the front and the back, yeah, you'll end up with a perfect seam. Because when you buy these things, sometimes the shippers from eBay will just throw them in an envelope and you get them and they're broken in half.
Well, there used to be a saying, don't take any wooden nickels, right?
Yeah, not in my world. I love wooden nickels. And most of us, there's actually a term for a wood nickel collector. You think I struggled with Perkiomini-Beal? Lingot Durist?
The University Coin Club, we had a lot of wooden nickels and the little sheets, and each one was a different wood. It was printed on it.
Oh, yeah, and it said what it was.
You've seen them. Did I give you some
Yeah.
from the university? Yeah.
Yeah, I have the majority, I think, that were ever produced. There's like 1 or 2 years I'm missing from the.
Yeah, it was somebody in the club made those up. But
Yeah,
the little
yeah.
sheets, real thin sheets.
I also made them on.
No, I'm talking about the paper, the ones that are about 2 by 3.
Yeah.
And then it had the year and all that, and different wood. It was elm or oak or whatever.
Yeah, walnut.
I got a collection of it. But I think I gave you some extras.
You did.
Yeah.
Thank you. The Olympia Coin Club, for their 60th anniversary, I think, a couple of years ago, printed what we call wooden flats. Looks like bills. They printed one. Most people print on wood.
So this isn't related to your collection, but wooden nickels or wooden coins ever been used as scrip or, when there's currency shortage or something?
Sure.
Trade
I know where it started. That's why it started, because of
Orlando's, they were making essentially depression script.
Yeah, during the 30s. They were the first in the whole country to
I got a big collection of trade tokens, and a lot of them are wooden nickel stuff too. You know, good for a beer or whatever, ice cream cone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you can imagine, that wasn't the first of the 2 boxes I got. Bob also sent me virtually, and I should probably bring it in, do a show sometime on that. On all of the wooden nickels produced at the PNNA shows since 1947 when they started. And I'm only like 5 short of a complete set. And I have some that are incredibly rare, and Bob had sent those to me, along with, Dan. He's a Boy Scout leader. I have volumes upon volumes upon volumes of Boy Scout wooden nickels from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, so on and so forth. So, and a lot more.
You
Well,
got
thank you, Ray.
Any others?
You got to spray for termites now.
Yes. Thank you.